What's up, guys? This is the Board Certified Gaming Podcast, the video game podcast rated M for mature. That was dumb.
That was very dumb.
That's very dumb. I
What did you do last week?
did Board Certified Gaming Podcast backwards. I spelled it backwards or said it backwards.
So you said gaming certified board?
No, actually, it was like Sakdop Nimang, like Defit Recta Rob. Yeah. See, I even said in the episode, Amar would cringe and
I'm putting in my 2 weeks notice.
Fine. You're also able to come up with intros if you want. These are very hard, and I'm running out of ideas of stuff to say when we intro the podcast.
How do you introduce yourself at parties?
Hi, I'm Andy.
Start that way.
Okay. I'm Andy, the person you're going to know.
Hello there.
So we are a video game podcast. If you don't know that already, what's wrong with you? We're going to be talking about some cool stuff today. I'm Andy. Like we just said, Amar is here.
Yep.
Again. So today we're going to spend this episode talking about something that most gamers don't really pay much attention to. We didn't really, but it's actually something that, is vital to gaming in itself. And that's crack. I'm just kidding. Controllers. We're talking about controllers.
Were you trying to see if anybody was paying attention?
Well, I hope they are.
Someone's
like,
just
wait a
in
minute,
a
what?
car right now just being like, crack?
Excuse me? How did they know?
That's how you increase your KD ratio. That's what G Fuel is.
How do you think we pull all those all-nighters, man? That is essentially G Fuel.
G Fuel is gamer crack?
G Fuel, please sponsor us. We'd be fine with that. You're not crack, but we know you're basically just the same thing.
Speaking of, I took advantage of the Memorial Day BOGO.
Hell yeah, man.
I ordered another tub of strawberry banana, and I also got the French vanilla iced coffee coming.
I don't think I'd like that.
I will let you know if I do.
I picture it as like a fruit flavored thing. So it's like French vanilla ice, like coffee.
Well, I mean, this is supposed to be like a energy drink. So just imagine it tasting like
coffee,
iced coffee.
I guess, which I don't get iced coffee, but that's just me. I'm strange. So
I'm a black coffee kind of guy.
Yeah. We're going to talk about controllers today. As riveting as that sounds.
Not the Drake song.
There's a Drake song called Controllers.
Controller.
Not controller.
It's not about video game controllers though.
Well, then I'm not going to listen. There's no point.
It's a jam though.
I bet. Well, Drake makes some bangers. So you might be thinking, wait a minute, they're talking about controllers? Fucking why? That's so stupid. But that's the point. Nobody really thinks about controllers. They come with the box you play with. So it's
sometimes they're in your wall. Sometimes they're on the floor.
Sometimes you break them when you're angry.
Sometimes you snap them in half.
But they're all expensive. All of them. Every single one. And it helps to have more of them, which is weird. It's like, yes, I am one person, but I always want a second one.
Well, yeah.
I feel like it comes in handy.
Buddy over.
That's what I'm saying. Like it benefits you to have more than one, even though I'm by myself.
Even though only like once a year people come over to play Mario Kart, it's still nice to have 8 Joy-Cons in case if I have 7 other people that want to play Mario Kart with me.
So for all the PC Master Race people, we get it. You don't have a controller. You're fucking cool. But what do you think a mouse and keyboard is?
They can plug in a controller too.
I know, but I'm just saying a typical PC. Those are inputs. Those are controllers. A mouse and a keyboard is basically thumbsticks and a D-pad and buttons just more spread out. So shut up. All right. Everybody uses controllers. That's literally how you play the game.
Things.
Okay. It's literally how you play the game. Without them, video games would just be long, shitty movies. And this is not the board certified movie podcast. All right. This is about video games. So we're going to talk about controllers today because you use them literally every single time that you play. And it's kind of interesting to see the history of controllers.
Do you use them every time you play though?
Yeah.
What about a Kinect?
Controller.
Is it though?
Voice inputs and motion, I guess.
I wouldn't call that
I
a controller.
did it. I used the Kinect as like a Xbox. Do whatever. It was so stupid. Yeah. And actually, because Mass Effect 3, I remember that was the first game I was playing at the time. And I was like, wait a minute. You can use voice commands when literally all it was is instead of pressing A to open the door, you can just say open. And then it just acts like you pressed A.
I remember when the one came out and they were like force bundled with the Kinect. Somebody bought the newest 2K game, and because the Kinect has to be always on, they discovered that if it detects you swearing, you get a technical.
Which I love that. That's the one thing I'm happy for is that. Oh shit! Hey, language.
I swear way too much when I play FIFA.
Well, yeah.
I don't need to be.
You'd get a red, man.
I would. Yeah, I would, after like what 4 or 5, you just
Probably.
forfeit the match. Nope, no thanks.
So with new consoles on the horizon, we thought it'd be a good idea to talk about some of these unsung heroes of games, because really you don't think about it, but actually you're not good, your controller is. I'm kidding. But a bad controller, you can kind of tell. I've had some bad controllers where it's like the
Mad
thumbsticks.
Cats.
Well, Mad Cats is a whole different kind of bad. We've mentioned them before.
Are they back yet?
I
hope they stay dead.
If they were, I think they're probably dead again. But controller, I've had some bad ones where the thumb pads are all just completely torn. But it's like, it's the one I have where it doesn't even charge anymore because the connector doesn't go in all the way, and it's like if you move it a little bit, it turns it off. So it's like a good controller. And Amar has had the other side of that, where he's had the fanciest controller, and he swears by it because it's probably the best gaming peripheral he's had in a long time. So we're just gonna kind of talk about the history of them, brief history, go through them, because there's been a lot of weird ones, there's been a lot of good ones, there's been a lot of bad ones, we think. And there's kind of an interesting flow to the history of controllers, and just seeing how it's evolved over time, and where kind of the big three, I guess, Nintendo, Xbox, and PlayStation, have kind of gone from the start. But before we do that, we're going to press pause here.
I hate you so much.
I know.
I hate you so fucking much.
And let you guys know about some things you can do for us. So
you can unfollow us on literally everything.
Please do. Please shame me on my Twitter. I deserve it. Just please call me all kind of names.
If you DM me, I will give you his address. We will go outside and boo him together.
Andy Lucas 33 on Twitter. Go ahead. Talk shit. I don't care. So follow our Twitter at BCG Podcast. BCG Podcast on Twitter. We appreciate you. We're almost at 50 followers. Amar is wiping his face because
I'm just waiting for you to resume the podcast.
Which you do with the start button. You mean press A to say resume?
Options.
Which that's where are you? Where are you on the start versus options?
It's start and select. It
always
will
still say start.
Yep. Yeah. Even though on Xbox it's like start and menu.
Yeah. It's not even like there's a start above it and like an options above it. It's literally 3 bars or 2 boxes on the Xbox controller. And I'm like, okay, like it's still start. And I told my girlfriend about this. I was like, oh, press the start button. She's like, the what? And I'm like, those three little bars. Like press that. And she's like, oh, okay. You said start, and I have no idea what the hell you're talking about.
Yeah, that means go, dumbass. Yeah.
So follow our Twitter at BCG Podcast. Follow our Instagram at Board Certified Gaming Podcast, BORED. If you type in BORAD, you're going to get a lot more interesting people.
Borad, is that real? Borad Certified
Did I say
Gaming?
BORAD?
Yeah.
Oh, shit. Don't look at that either. BOARD.
Borad Certified Gaming.
I know how to spell.
If that doesn't exist, I'm taking that Twitter handle. I'm just posting weird shit. Yeah. Borat. Nice. Borat Certified Gaming.
I thought that's where you were going with.
No, like you said BORAD.
I know. I thought you were making a Borat reference.
Red Dead Redemption is nice.
So follow our Instagram.
Do you want to play Halo?
BORED Certified Gaming Podcast. We also have a Patreon, patreon.com/BCG Podcast. Check them all out. If you're going to pick one, pick the Twitter. That's probably our pride and joy. My pride and joy, at least. God. I tweet on it all the time. If you like the intro and the stupid little puns that I've been putting in this,
it's just all fucking day.
That's all it is. So
don't even hit that little notification bar. Just follow it and just mute it.
Enjoy.
It still counts as a follow.
So we're going to get into this. Amar and I are in our 20s. So obviously, the first video game, we didn't really have it. The Atari came out in like the 70s. We weren't alive for that. I've played an Atari. You did too. Have you? You haven't played Atari? Okay. I have played on the Atari just because my family had one. So I don't know why they didn't play video games. I think they were just like, hey, this is a thing that people have. So I played the Atari. That was like the first, I think, joystick I remember. Because
wasn't it just like a box with just
it is a box with a one stick and a button, and I'm very good with sticks.
What is it? The Atari 2600 you had?
I think so. Yeah, I'm very good with sticks that fit in my hand. Very good.
Introductory price was $200, which is the equivalent of $840.
Imagine paying that for an Atari thing. ridiculous. So if you don't know what an Atari is,
it doesn't even have ray tracing.
Can I get the Atari in 4K? So it's a very old system that if you're under the age of, let's see, 77, it's like 40. That'd be 2017. So I don't know.
80s babies are about to hit 40 this decade.
You should know what it is. If not, it's a very old system that is not around anymore. It made a lot of blocked games. Pong was on it. All these other games were on it. The controller was a joystick and a button. That was literally it. That's what people had to play games on it. It was very shitty. Things didn't move that quickly.
128 bytes
yeah.
of RAM, not even megabytes, regular bytes.
Yeah. So that's the one I remember playing. The controller was very weird, but it was kind of revolutionary at the time because it was like, oh my God, instead of actually like, I can control things with this stick. And then if I need to shoot or need to throw or need to jump, I can press this one button that it had. And then they just kind of evolved from that in that, okay, joysticks suck. Let's not do joysticks. When people want to move, let's just do arrows. And that's the Nintendo Entertainment System, the NES, kind of set the standard for controllers. In 1983, they had just a
NES?
Yes, that's what I just said. Pay attention.
I keep just looking up this Atari thing because I've seen pictures.
Okay, Amar's gonna play Atari after this. I'm pretty sure.
The cheapest one I can find is $1,600. I don't think I am.
Jesus, I think my parents still have one.
Why
do they still have one? Sell it. Get $2,000 for it.
It's at a vintage Atari 2600 on eBay for $1,600.
So
I can get the flashback for $50.
Yeah, I'm sure they remade them sometime. So the Nintendo Entertainment System, the NES. If you have not seen it before, just go look it up. It's basically go into a Hot Topic and there's probably a T-shirt that has some kind of
lunchbox.
Yeah, there's probably something. You can get a belt buckle that looks like it. It's a rectangle. There's a D-pad on the left side. There's an A and a B button on the right side. There's select and start in the middle. That's what kind of became the gold standard for controllers. Which what you think of today as a controller, buttons on the right, D-pad on the left, start and select in the middle. And that was it. That was the controller. Yes, it had kind of a limitation because it could only go up, down, left, and right. People kind of got around that by pressing both at the same time. It kind of worked, didn't work all the time. But then it was just, that's what we needed. We needed the games that we created only can go up, down, left, right. And you had two buttons that really didn't matter.
And you could do the Konami code.
Up, down, up, down.
Nope. Up, down, left, right, BA.
Okay, fine. I would have failed already. So that was kind of my first handheld controller with pressing buttons and getting the two hands on it and getting prepared for like, okay, this is what I'm doing right now. Obviously, I played a lot of Duck Hunt, which is a completely different controller because it was a gun. Like literally you gave kids a gun to shoot ducks. And I think it worked on other games. I don't know any other games that the gun controller worked on, but I remember shooting the hell out of them ducks. And then maybe
I think the Wii had like a gun attachment.
There have been other gun attachments in the future, but I'm saying back in the day, I remember playing Super Mario Bros. And then Duck Hunt with that gun. And you had to plug it in separately. And I was like, okay, cool. Because you could have two controllers in there, I think. It was a two-player.
With what, the NES?
The NES, yeah. So one of them could be the gun and the other one. I did not know this until I was like 20. One person can have the controller, can control the ducks. And then the other person has the gun and can shoot the duck. I wish I was like 5 when I learned that, because then I would have just been fucking with my brothers and like, okay, hey, I'm going to move these ducks. Like,
I mean, you still can if you're just like, hey, you guys want to just play some Duck Hunt?
I guess, but I don't want to have to pay $600 for an old NES.
I'm sure if you get the NES Classic.
That doesn't come with Duck Hunt. And the gun controller?
Not the gun. Somebody probably made an attachment. You can go to Make Sense Variety. They're selling an NES for under $100.
I guess, but I'm just saying, like, I don't want to buy that and spend money on just like 5 minutes of Duck Hunt. Like, it's just, we'll see. But that controller came out and was pretty cool. I remember not having any problems with it, and it became like all right, all these other game companies, like the next one is the Sega Genesis in 1988. That kind of also had D-pad on the left, buttons on the right. No start and select button in the middle, but it was there. And then I was like, okay, we're just going to build off of that. Kind of becomes a copycat league. It's like, all right, we're going to, but this is the point where you see, okay, well, that's theirs. We're going to change the shape, or we're going to make it more ergonomic for your hands, or we're going to make it so we're going to add other buttons. We're going to make so, oh, our games are a little bit more advanced. So we're going to add a third button because there's other shit apparently you need to do that 2 buttons in A and B can't really do.
Oh yeah, I see that. And then fucking Super Nintendo was like, "Fuck you, 4 buttons."
Yeah. So it became this kind of like pissing contest, this dick size contest. It's like, oh, 3 buttons? Ha! Amateur hour. Here's 4 buttons. Remember our old controller? Oh, you wanted to make some weird like Batman looking thing? Fine. Ours is a little rounded, so it's like, okay, hand 1, hand 2 fits kind of perfectly on there. So that's what it's was this interesting dynamic where they're just, okay, how can we make this? Because that shit's pretty good. We're going to take that whole D-pad A-B button thing, but how can we make it better so it looks like it's that old meme that's like, hey, can I copy your homework? Yeah, but just make it look like I didn't do it.
I feel like you've already used that joke before.
Probably. So does everybody. That's what a meme is.
I'm going to lock you in a room just to write new material for like a month.
Fine.
That's your quarantine.
But you know what you're going to get? You're going to get a lot of stupid ass jokes that you're going to make. It's going to make you cringe and put your hand over your eyes.
Pandemic is going to kill me.
Probably. Which we hope you guys are staying safe throughout this whole
Wash your hands.
Yeah, please.
Don't
wash your hands,
jokes.
wash your butt.
Always wash your butt.
Well, yeah.
So who's not been washing their butt during this thing?
I don't know. There's somebody out there.
Nasty ass.
So the Super Nintendo, like Amar said, came out and was like, okay, Sega Genesis, you want 3 buttons? Here's a 4th, bitch. A, B,
Super Nintendo
X,
just
and Y.
took what the original Nintendo had and just made it a lot more ergonomic.
I wish I had the article or the news story or the interview or something as to why they went A, B, X, and Y instead of A, B, Y, and Z. I don't get the point. Like, that's the one thing I never really understood. A and B kind of makes sense. It's the first 2 letters of the alphabet. Obviously, the first 2 buttons you're going to have are A and B. But why they went X and Y, I have no idea. I guess Z just didn't look cool.
Well, I don't understand their conventions. I think this is also the first one that had shoulder buttons on it, too.
Yeah. But
I think those shoulder buttons are just what, L and R, right?
I think so. Just because that's stayed the test of time, left and right. Because it's like, okay, shit. We have up, down, left, and right on the D-pad, but we're not going to put letters on there because that's going to confuse people if we just keep a bunch of letters. We got A, B, and X, and Y. What are these shoulder buttons going to be? How about shoulder 1 and shoulder 2? No, that's going to suck. How about left and right? Like, it's just become this. You see some people, okay, this is left, this is right. And then the next controller that comes out is like, we're going to take that. This is left and right. We're going to have shoulder buttons because all these new games come out with the advances in technology in making games. They're like, well, what if this guy who's fighting can do 17 different kinds of moves? You can't really do that if you just have up, down, left, right, A, and B. So it's like you need to come out with new buttons that do new shit because you got to make your console sell. You got to make it stand out from everything else. And one company that has kind of stayed true to its design the whole entire time, so you know what you're going to get, what it is, what it does, is PlayStation. So in 1994, the PS1 comes out, which this controller is very simple, I'd say, compared to where it is now. PlayStation has obviously improved upon it, but the aesthetic has been kind of the same.
Well, yeah, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. That's how Sony's always been.
So they took the same kind of, okay, 4 D-pad or D-pad on the left, 4 buttons on the right. Fine. Start select in the middle. Cool. Super Nintendo, you do you. Shoulder buttons, that's fine.
We got 4 of them.
We got fucking 4 shoulder buttons. Bitch, suck on that. What are you going to do about it? Our shit does 6 more things than you do because just like with math, it's, add 2 more buttons and combine them with all the combinations you can make with all the other buttons you have on there. You get, an infinite amount of combinations that it's like, well, we just doubled all the potential combinations for these games that we made. And then they kind of added the whole, great, yours is rounded, ours is rounded too. But we have these little handles on the bottom so people can grab their hands around it because these little circles, while they are getting a little bit more ergonomically sound for your hands, what if we have something that people can actually like hold on to And that's why PlayStation was like, yeah, our design is pretty sick. So then Nintendo, in all of its glory, was like, took some cocaine, maybe some weed and some LSD, and came up with a Nintendo 64 controller. That thing is wackier than hell.
It's not even going to be their wackiest one.
It's not, but that's the thing. It's not going to be their wackiest one.
Nintendo always innovates, though. That's the thing.
It's
like
so
it
weird.
looks like a weird controller, but like when you play it, it's actually kind of nice.
So they took. It's just very interesting seeing the evolution of these things, because then you go from the PS1 to the N64, which is like, okay, you got 2 sticks. We have 3. And there's one of the analog sticks is in the middle. And then we have all these buttons, and we have more buttons than your controller has. You want 4 shoulder buttons? Here's A, B, 4 C buttons, 2 shoulders, a Z in the back, and only a start in the middle with a D-pad on the left.
They used to sell these at 7 Mile Fair pre-programmed with like 7,000 games.
Yeah.
But it was just 100 copies of like Super Mario, and then another 100 copies of Super Mario 2.
Yeah.
And then like 100 different versions of Donkey Kong.
Yeah. I mean,
and they charge you like $40 for this thing.
Well, yeah, because it's a ripoff. That's the whole point. I mean,
it's my first Nintendo system.
Well, I know, but they probably paid $10 to make them and sell them for $40. But the N64, you didn't even know how to hold this thing. It's the shape of an M, but the middle is the longest one,
or a W, depending on how you hold it,
or a W. Which don't play it like
or the number 3.
Don't play it like a W, because you're gonna suck at every single game you play.
You'd be surprised.
Unless you can play upside down. Props. That's awesome. But there's just so many buttons. I think Nintendo was like, okay, we went a little bit too far. Too many buttons. People don't know how to hold on to it.
You know what I'm curious about?
What?
To kind of sidetrack here. So Nintendo's been doing with the Switch Online, where they've been going from like the NES Classic and then the SNES Classic, where they've been kind of adding those to the Nintendo Switch Online library.
Yeah.
And those make sense because the Joy-Cons, you can make that work. You know, you can kind of reprogram those buttons.
Yeah.
If they decided to like
remake the
N64 games over to the Switch Online,
how are they going to do that?
Yeah.
Because I don't know.
There's no.
They're gonna have to do some mapping, because it doesn't. I understand that.
Are you gonna need 3 Joy-Cons?
Maybe that's the
and
thing.
Then you have to buy an attachment.
How do you figure it out? Because which I guess there's.
I don't know if there's enough. You could use the left Joy-Con for the left. You could use the right one for the middle, and then another right one.
Yeah, what do you do for Z?
Well, I mean, a lot of times with the N64, I mean, you held it either on both ends or you had just one in the middle and you ignored the D-pad.
I did left hand middle.
Yeah.
Right hand buttons.
Correct.
If I needed the D-pad, I just reached over. I took the hand off and put it on the left hand.
They would most likely program it that way. But I mean, a lot of the things that you needed a D-pad for, you would use the analog anyways.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying.
I guess maybe
that gets rid of a set of buttons.
Maybe that question was kind of dumb.
That's for somebody that's above our pay grade.
They're
to
figure it out as we speak.
I hope so, because I want all these N64 games. It's just the controller is insane. They took the PlayStation controller and just basically gave it a bunch of drugs and were like, here's the new controller.
It's a PlayStation controller with a boner.
Pretty much. That's a very astute statement.
Thanks.
So they made this controller, and you notice instead of A, B, X, Y, they did A, B, C's.
And the C's are just up, down, left, right.
The C's are up, down, left, right. So it's like a second D-pad.
So all those guides was like, press C up. And I'm like, what?
And then the shoulder buttons, I believe, are X and Y. And then the trigger on the bottom is Z.
No, I think the shoulder buttons are just
pretty sure the shoulder button. Oh, maybe. But I thought there was an X, Y, and Z. But
I have one.
I don't think so. I think you're actually right. It's left, right, and Z. But the whole point was,
I can go confirm it. I don't know if I get
there's a Z now. So they're like, okay, shit. What do we do? X, Y, we've done already. A, B. Okay, what about C's? Okay, C's are there. We'll add C's. All right, what are we doing for this trigger button?
And D is already D-pad.
I don't want to go D because that's D-pad. E is not going to make any sense. All right, well, what about Z? Oh, shit, thank God we have Z. Oh, cool. Now they're screwed. If they want to add any more buttons, they have to go really nuts. So that's Nintendo. Nintendo's going weird. While they're going weird with it, PlayStation is like, hey, you know what? Our controller, pretty dope. We don't, we don't hate it. We don't need all these unnecessary buttons, but we know, that N64, that stick, they kind of got something there. What we're going to do? 2 sticks. Fuck you, Nintendo. Like, we're going to add 2 sticks to our controller, and they got the PlayStation DualShock.
This one used to frustrate me because they had the button where you could enable or disable analog.
Analog, yeah, and I always press that all the time.
Well, I got pissed because my cousin would press it when I was like in the bathroom, and then I would sit there and fucking figuring it out. They also had L3 and R3.
Yes.
Which when I first played Grand Theft Auto as a youth, I was super confused when it said press L3 to honk. I was like, the fuck is that?
Which those are pressing the sticks down.
Yep.
So instead of just having...
Back in the day, you couldn't just Google that shit. You had to call a hotline.
Yeah. So they kind of went a step further. They were like, all right, we're going to have 2 sticks. And you know what? The sticks are buttons. Yeah. You can press the sticks. So they're just like, every single one of these controllers is basically these companies pulling out their dick and saying, all right, mine's got a little bit bigger because I added something to it. It's basically your dick, but with a little bit more onto it. So then I wish that could happen, but it doesn't.
I don't think that's what happens at all.
Probably not. Meanwhile, Sega is eating glue in a corner and was like, hey, how about the Dreamcast?
I wish that thing was
What if you wanted to play games on your memory cards? That sounds cool, right? What if it's just like
play it on the memory card?
I know, I'm just saying. Like there's a digital interface on the memory card.
For some games,
for some reason. They thought
for some of them it's just like Shenmue, I think it's just like a graphic, and then sometimes they like go through your journal.
But the Dreamcast was just like, hey, 1998, here's this weird ass thing. Why not? Let's make it. And that's why Sega isn't a thing anymore.
I wish the Dreamcast
Sega. Amar actually has a Dreamcast that
I got it for Christmas, yeah.
Yes, which he's hopefully going to play soon. They did have the X, Y, A, and B where they should be, a D-pad where it should be, but they had the stick on the left, and then just a big-ass hole in the middle for your memory cards.
This was the original Xbox controller.
It was, which we'll get to later. It's actually interesting to see how the Duke came from the Dreamcast controller. But
the Duke.
You stick these sticks, instead of sticking the memory cards into the system, you stick them into the controller. Because they were like, that's the problem. People are complaining because you got to stick memory cards in the system. What if you can just put it in the controller? And then you can take it to your friend's house.
Yeah, and play.
But you can also take a memory card to your friend's house.
This was the OG cloud storage.
I guess. It's so fucking weird. Sega, I don't know what you were thinking. It doesn't look ergonomically sound. It just looks like a...
It's actually not bad.
I bet it is.
It's not bad.
Are there triggers in the back? I don't remember. There are triggers in the back.
There's triggers in the back.
It's just like you're holding...
The triggers are the only things that feel weird.
Yeah. It's just, I can't describe what it looks like. What it would feel like you're holding. It's big, square. Take an Xbox controller, add like a little, like double its volume, and that, because it looks bigger than it actually is. It just looks really cumbersome, and like
it looks like what the Duke would have been if they didn't
trim,
if they continued going with the Duke.
Yeah. So Sega's doing its weird shit. It's just like, okay, we're not going to take anything from you guys. We have to be different because nobody respects us anymore. So we're going to try to come out with something. No shade on the Dreamcast. It's a very good system.
Rest in peace.
Rest in peace, Dreamcast. But the controller is very weird. And they're just like, how about digital interface memory cards with buttons on them that you can do things on the memory cards, because we want people to game before they game and have little things that they press buttons on before they press buttons on the controller. Sega is weird. So I'm just going to throw that out. It's fine.
But then
one of the greatest systems that does not get the credit for being a mobile system, as it should be. It literally had a fucking
mobile system
handle on it. What do you think that handle was for? Aesthetics? Nah, it's for
cable management.
It's basically like a giant briefcase that you carry around. The Nintendo GameCube in 2001.
Did you ever have the GBA adapter for?
Of course I did.
Dude,
how do you think I played Zelda 4 Swords by myself?
That makes the thing like even more of a fucking brick.
Yes, and I played Crystal Chronicles on it as well.
Oh, I love that game.
Oh, yeah. So the Nintendo GameCube, they were like, you know what? The N64 was a little bit too weird, a little bit too ahead of its time.
It really was.
Yeah. A little bit too cumbersome in some ways. It's like, well, how do you hold it? Do you hold it like this? Do you hold it? Years. So they were like, you know what? Get rid of the boner. Get rid of the middle part. That's fine. Put the analog stick on the left. But they were like, all right, 2 analog sticks, fine. And a D-pad, fine. And 4 buttons, fine. But 3 triggers.
And then the
Like
Smash
all of this
Brothers
shit.
Evo circuit was forever changed.
Yeah. So the game
This is like their preferred controller for every Smash game ever.
I mean,
to the point that they re-released this controller exclusively for the Switch.
You can get one on a Switch, and it's awesome. So the Nintendo GameCube, I enjoy that controller because that was the first.
That's in my top 5.
That was the first controller that I remember. You get a click when you press the triggers.
Yes.
Like the other ones were kind of just like silent buttons.
These and then after a while they'd creak.
Yeah. The Nintendo GameCube, except for the Z button, the left and right trigger buttons, you actually got like a click. Like you were taking and actually like pressing down and feeling some kind of resistance like you're pressing down, not just pressing a button. And then I kind of liked the button layout where A, which you're going to use more than anything, is fucking huge. B, which is not so much, is tiny. X and Y are around the A. And then the C stick is aim. But then you also got a D-pad. So controllers now, you picture them, 2 analog sticks where your thumbs are under, and then you got a D-pad up left, buttons upper right. This one did analog stick upper right, D-pad lower left. Wow. Analog stick upper left, D-pad lower left, buttons upper right, analog stick lower right. So it's like you kind of reversed it, which I kind of dug because I didn't use the D-pad much. I didn't want to have to go up for a D-pad, like if I was using it rarely.
Right.
It kind of bugs me on controllers a little bit now, but that one was like, all right, D-pad down here if I need to use it, sure. Because GameCube actually used it pretty frequently. There would be games like I remember playing SSX Tricky. That's how you spun, is you use the D-pad. You can use the analog stick, but you don't spin as fast. Whereas if you hold the D-pad button down, you'd spin right away when you jump.
That analog stick had that like all those divots in there. So if you like circled it around, ridged. You got like really nice clicks in there too.
Yeah, and I remember it had a really good grip on it. So I remember the GameCube controller very well.
Overall, it was a perfect controller for like
very good.
If you needed like sensory, like whatever that's called, I would just sit there and just fucking. Oh.
And that was actually my first wireless controller.
Oh, you bought the wireless one too?
I had the Wavebird.
Wasn't that like a thick motherfucker?
It was a fat dude. It was basically the GameCube controller, but it put on 20 pounds.
I think my cousin
like it put on its college weight a little bit.
It had a decent battery life.
It did, and I remember I got it at a yard sale way after it came out, and I was like, "Holy shit, this is wireless? You mean I can just like play it from my couch and not have to worry about wires?" That was my first wireless controller ever. Yeah. And I was like, "This is pretty fucking dope. Maybe this will be a thing in the future." Little did we know, wires don't exist anymore.
I think my first wireless one was for the original Xbox, but that's because I got that before I got the GameCube.
Yeah. So the Wavebird was really awesome. All you had to do was set a channel on the little receiver you plugged into the GameCube, set the same channel on the controller. It would find it, turn it on, put on batteries in it, and then you'd play. It was fatter, so it like fit in your hands a little thicker. I kind of enjoyed it because I was like, all right, same kind of click with the triggers. I'm having a good time. I can play GameCube games from farther away, even though my eyes are terrible and I need to be close anyway. So the GameCube was awesome. But that same year, 2001, Xbox made the Duke. So the old Xbox, OG Xbox.
The Duke.
Fat ass controller.
So that one I think they only ran with for a few months because when I got the Xbox as a gift when I was young, it came with the S controller, like the super slim one. But I remember my uncle, he was living with his roommate, his best friend. And when I would go over there to hang out with them, he had the original Halo.
Yeah.
Now picture 2001, I was 7, about to turn 8. So little kid.
Yeah.
Holding a fucking controller.
Huge.
This thing was like.
It's going to be super big.
If I had to like guess a controller that I would hold now with like adult hands.
Yeah.
It was
like
gigantic.
A clipboard. You're hanging onto a clipboard.
I couldn't hold it.
Yeah.
I just couldn't. I don't know how adults did. Even still to this day, like I held a Duke like a few months ago, and I still like. I mean, I want to buy one for the Xbox One for sure, but like I still can't fucking comfortably hold that.
Yeah,
thing.
like these. We talked about the Dreamcast being a weird, one-off controller. But the Duke is actually just like they took the Dreamcast controller and kind of trimmed the fat a little bit. They just
and they had the black and white buttons, which was like weird.
Yes, which
did you ever own an original Xbox?
No, but I played it.
It's great.
I've played it a lot, and
it's a very underrated console.
It is. I got very confused by the black and white buttons because they were like, you know what? It's been done before. Everybody does triggers. We have triggers. Everybody does 2 analog sticks. We have 2 analog sticks. We copied the GameCube as well because we have analog stick upper left, D-pad lower left, analog stick lower right, buttons upper right. But we have black and white buttons, which do other stuff, because why not?
We need a new Xbox logo in the center.
Yeah,
so you always know what you're playing.
Yeah, it's like it didn't do anything yet.
It felt nice though.
But it's just a giant ass circle that has the word Xbox in it, and a giant X because you're like, this is what you're playing. This is the system. This is a controller for this system. It doesn't work on anything else. You know what the hell you're playing. It's just the black and white buttons because there is a start and select button, so it's not those. There are triggers. It's not those. It's just black and white.
The opening theme when you first start that Xbox, the original.
Yeah, that was great. I love it. And they had kind of like a thicker, bigger design, which Amar said is just, it's huge. And so they're like, massive. You know what? It's pretty big. We'll slim it down. So they slimmed it down in the Japanese version, which is the S one that Amar talked about, which has become the more colloquially known,
more comfortable,
universally known as the Xbox controller. The Duke is just the fat one. It's fat brother. That now there's a slimmed down Japanese version.
I'm gonna look if I can now buy the Duke.
Yeah, he's gonna try to buy a Duke now, which I enjoyed the controller. It was huge, and it's like tough to maneuver around these big controllers, especially when you're a young kid and you have tiny hands. Which now I have big hands, and you know what they say about big hands? Cannot afford gloves that well. That's a bad joke. So, in 2001, that's Xbox was riding high with its fat controller that they're like, all right, well, you're going to lose some weight because people are complaining because their hands aren't big enough. Meanwhile, Nintendo is developing just something completely bonkers, the Wii, which they're like, you know what? Everybody's going all these buttons and adding more buttons to their controllers. Guess who was the OG of too much buttons? The N64. So they're like, you know what we're going to do here? We're just going to go this weird wireless remote with this little like joystick connected to it if you want, if the game requires. So 2006 was the Wiimote and the Nunchuck. Very weird names for what it was. So many were thrown into TVs and thrown into ceilings.
Yep, and you had to buy like the little Wii condom for it.
Which I did not have.
You didn't?
I remember.
Did you ever put the straps on?
No.
Fucking idiot.
And I remember first day I got it for Christmas. My parents I was bowling.
Oh no.
And I did not let go until my hand was up. And so it let go and it hit the ceiling and then came back down.
I was worried it's gonna hit the TV.
Still worked. Still worked. Those things are resilient as hell, but very injury prone. There were, because Wii Sports that came with the console was just a huge game. And everybody was bowling, everybody's playing baseball, everybody's playing tennis and boxing and all this other crap. And you throw those remotes. And that's why there was literally a reminder that's like, for the love of God, please put this strap on your hand. Please put it on your wrist so we're not chucking these things and breaking TVs because we don't want to get sued because everybody has to replace their TV now. So Nintendo throughout this entire history of them, they're just fucking weird. They're like, okay, everybody's doing this. They're zigging. How can we zag? How can we change completely and make it weird? So that was the Wii.
In that same year, Sony just did this PS2 controller, but wireless.
And then,
and then the greatest controller in the history of controllers, the Xbox 360.
Yes, which the Xbox 360 controller, Amar is going to swear by.
It's the best.
It's the best.
It's perfect. Everybody agrees.
It is.
It's not a wrong answer. It's not a wrong opinion.
Fine.
It's just not. I will not entertain any discussion on this.
Fine. I would say it got better, but Xbox basically took the Duke, trimmed it down, refined the edges, refined all the buttons, got rid of the black and white ones. Don't need that shit. Gave you 2 bumpers, 2 triggers, and you can press the middle thing, which is a button. First one to do that. You couldn't push the PS logo in the middle of the PlayStation controllers. It wouldn't do anything.
And those concave analog sticks.
Yeah.
Oh,
so good. It's awesome. And then there were lights around the button. So it's like when you press it, you're going to see a light show.
If you're 1, 2, 3, or 4.
You can, and it showed you what player you were. It was, I wouldn't say the perfect controller. I don't know what the perfect controller is.
We're talking about it right now. I told you
Amar,
I will not entertain this idea.
Amar is going to swear by the Xbox 360 controller. I would agree. I think it is a great controller. It is the main difference that you will notice between Xbox and PlayStation controllers is the location of their analog sticks. Because one is different than the other. One has 2 analog sticks on the bottom. The other one has 1 up on the left and 1 down on the right. That's Xbox. PlayStation has 2 below. And Xbox and PlayStation, they're not really fighting with Nintendo anymore for like, okay, what is Nintendo doing? How can we make a controller different? PlayStation is like, we make the same controller, just sharper, looks like it's modern or in the future. Like it's 2 analog sticks, same buttons, same triggers, whatever. Xbox is like, all right, we had the Duke, slim it down, trim all those buttons. We don't need black and white buttons. Who gives a shit? We don't see color anymore. It's 20 whatever, right? We don't need black and white buttons. Now make that center fucking thing that everybody knows says Xbox. Make that into a fucking button. That's probably the most important button because that's how you go to the dashboard. That's how you do anything. If you want to switch games, turn off the console, anything.
Well, and they all had that. The Wii had the home button. PlayStation 3 had the home button. Xbox had it. And then they carried that over into the next generation too.
Yeah.
Wii U, we don't really have to get too much into. It was basically a fucking Nintendo Switch.
Yeah. So the whole thing is that they've kind of taken their style. Xbox has taken their controller and perfected it over time. They're like, we don't need to change it. We just need to improve on it. They're not. Back in the day, Nintendo was changing aesthetics left and right. And then Xbox was trying to come up with what it was doing. PlayStation was just like, all right, well, we see what you're doing. We're going to add a little bit or improve on a little bit. Now, Nintendo is still trying to come up with something new, which is why we have Joy-Cons today, which are like the kind of individual little Wii.
Are you using your straps now?
No.
God,
I'm not doing anything that requires me to throw the Joy-Con
until they release a Wii Sports 4.
Switch
Sports.
Dude, what if they
game over?
They did, I thought.
No, that fucking
1-2 Switch, I guess.
Doesn't count.
It's not sports though?
No, there's no sports.
Okay, fine. But when they do release Nintendo Switch Sports, I will try to remember to use these straps. But all of these consoles have just kind of perfected their controllers over time. And they're like, why change it completely? Because, and I think you would agree with this, if they changed their controllers drastically, like made it a whole new thing, we would complain. We'd be like, I have been playing your
only
Xbox.
Only for PlayStation and Xbox.
But I'm saying if
Nintendo's been fucking changing it literally every console cycle.
But I'm saying Xbox and PlayStation, if they just completely redesign their controllers, we would.
That's why I hated the PS4 controller so much.
You did? You hated it?
Oh yeah. I grew to like it, but no, man, when they fucking...
You weren't a fan of the big button?
When they widen it, and then they had that fucking touchpad in the center that I never use.
I don't use it unless I have to.
Nope. Pointless. I don't need it.
Yeah. I mean, they try to add little things to it, try to improve on it, whatever they can, but if it ain't broke, don't fix it, which is kind of the message here. Unless you're Nintendo, then just have fun with it, I guess. Go nuts. So controllers are going to be a little different, but also kind of the same. Xbox Series X controllers are just kind of the same, but they don't have that weird trim on the top.
No, they got rid of that, and then they added like a new share button now, so that's probably going to go away from like the guide or whatever.
And they're backwards compatible, so you don't even have to get one. Who cares? Who cares? Use an Xbox One controller if you really like it. PlayStation 4, they kind of got weird with it and like gave it this white look. They're trying to go different, but it's still the same, bare bones. You know,
it's a PlayStation controller.
4 trigger buttons, all the other shit stays the same. But they're adding more things to it, what's called like haptic feedback, where it's like, if it's raining in the game, you'll feel it on the controller. You'll like get a little bit more responsive triggers, which I appreciate. I like the triggers are going to be like, you're actually pressing this thing, and we're going to make you, feel like you're actually pressing something down instead of just, okay, I know what's going on. After a certain point, you get like a squeak because my controller's just starting to squeak when I press the triggers.
Yep.
But it kind of turns into where controllers are going to go from here. We don't know. Probably going to be the same shit. Nintendo's going to be going wacky with it. Who knows? Their brains are weird. But we would recommend buying the Xbox Elite controller.
It's great.
It is great. Yeah. It's a lot of money, but
Sony also has off-brand ones that are like similar to the Elite. Like I think like Scuff Gaming has one that's like, when I was out in Vegas, I tried it out. Like it's a super ergonomic, real nice controller. It has all those like extra bells and whistles that you can program buttons to.
With controllers, especially nowadays. Back in the day, spending a lot of money on a controller didn't make any sense. Now it kind of makes sense because you're going to get the bells and whistles that you really appreciate. That stuff that's like, you know what? This was worth it. Amar swears by his Elite controller and he can use it on the new system. So he doesn't need
I need to ask my mom to buy it for me again for my birthday.
Hey, can I buy another $200 controller for the Xbox Series X?
Didn't I just buy you one last year? Yeah, it was.
Yeah, but it's obsolete now.
You know they're gonna come out with a Series 3, and I'm gonna be like,
are you gonna buy it?
We'll see if they announce it. The Series 2 just came out like last fall.
You know it's gonna come out. Are you gonna buy one in like 4 years if it comes out?
Probably. I mean, in 4 years' time, the Elite.
That means I get your Elite too.
You'll get a worn down controller, but for sure,
like 7 buttons are missing. So this has been kind of a history of controllers. Yes, it's kind of boring, but as you can see, as we talked about, it was kind of interesting to see all these companies like take an idea, improve it, or add a button. All right, we added a stick. All right, we added 2 sticks. All right, we added 3 buttons. Like, suck it. Like, it was just an interesting look in the history of controllers, something that people don't really think about, because it's just become an automatic. You press the button to turn on your controller, which turns on your system, and then you're just automatically going, and your brain, your stupid human brain, is thinking, okay, just move it. Don't even look down at your hands.
Before we wrap it up, what are your top 5 controllers?
Top 5 controllers. I would put Joy-Cons up there. I enjoy the Joy-Cons.
Rank them.
I don't have a ranking. I'm not going to put them. I'm going to put 5 that I enjoy. GameCube is up there.
You got to do 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5.
I'm not going to do that. Xbox 360 is up there.
Number 1.
I'd lump that in with Xbox One because there hasn't been much that changed. I know you know the difference. I don't really care.
Yeah, Xbox 360 is number 1.
I actually like the PS4 controller, but I guess I'd go DualShock because
Which DualShock? 1, 2, 3, or 4?
2.
PS2?
Yeah.
DualShock 2? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because the new one, PS4, is fine. I don't need the middle button. I don't need the extra button. I don't need a light in the back. I don't need like a speaker in it so it can like make noise. I don't give a shit. Sometimes I'm like, immediately turn that off. I don't want to hear it. GameCube is up there. Xbox 360 is up there. Joy-Con is up there. And then Mad Catz. I'm kidding.
I'm going to go number 1, 360 controller. Number 2, Nintendo Switch Pro controller. That's a great one. Number 3, GameCube. Number 4 for me would most likely be the PS2 controller. And then number 5 is the SNES controller.
Oh, you know what I'm going to say? Power Glove.
Fair.
Yeah, that's up there.
Fair.
Power Glove or the Super Shooter. So that has been kind of an oral history of of the controllers. We will see you guys next week with hopefully something a little bit more interesting. We hope you enjoyed this. If you listened this far, we are appreciative of that. We're also considering why. Why would you do that? Why would you listen this far? Most people probably gave up after 5 minutes. Week. Amar will hopefully be back next week. I will, so you're stuck with me.
So sorry.
We'll see you guys later. Have a good one.
Peace.